me, it seems in a way like a more reasonable or
Accurate
interesting
and interesting.
Yeah, aesthetically, certainly aesthetically satisfying.
That was really beautifully put, Daniel. I really enjoyed that way of putting it. In fact, in the West, we do have that. What Terence referred to actually as the topography of time, which in the context in which he said this to me was that scientific studies never take into account the quality, if you will, of time, or the difference between conducting an experiment at 9 a.m. or 4:30 p.m. There's no consideration for the lunar effects and influence at one time or another, or on one day or another. But in fact, in Western astrology, it is built in because we have Monday, Moon Day, we have Martes, Tuesday, and in other words, the influence of Mars. So it is built in, but it has been very much flattened out, if you will, by our daily mercantile activities, where there's very little glory, color given.
But our basic calendar is not harmonic.
True.
To the natural cycles.
And it is.
I mean, months were originally supposed to be months. So the idea was that months should be sequenced to the moon cycle.
Yes.
Now, what happened, way back when empire and the dominator culture developed, there was a shift from...
Thank you, Rian Eisler.
Yeah, from many people. But there was a shift to from a kind of lunar orientation to a solar orientation, which was more the masculine. The feminine is more the lunar. And at that point, they took the normal harmonic connection to the seasons and to time, and instead they made the year into an abstract circle, which you could divide into 12 parts, 12 theoretically equal parts, but they can't be equal. So you'd either have a number of days that would be evil days, or you'd have uneven days of a calendar, which is what we have. And so we've reified a disharmonious relationship to time, where we're just not connected to the natural cycles or the lunar rhythms.
Very true.
And Arguelles,
except for women.
Well, yeah. I mean, they have their moon cycle, but they don't have any external referent in the calendar.
Yes.
So I think Jose Arguelles made a very interesting point that we tend to not think of a calendar as being very important, but somehow it's a meta-programming device for human consciousness. So if you have a calendar that's desynchronized, then everything begins to go out of balance, and people lose their contact and their connection to the natural harmonic cycles. And he pointed out that it's almost like building a tower on an unsound foundation, that if you're using the wrong calendar and you keep building this tower up and up, eventually you're going to have a catastrophe.
Yes, exactly. We're speaking with Daniel Pinchbeck, the author of 2012, The Return of Quetzalcoatl, and we're just having a ball here looking at many of the subjects that are related to in many different ways, both direct and oblique, to this really important subject. I think that's such a well-made point. I'm actually thinking about my own religious orientation originally, at birth, that is, of being Jewish. And there is a tremendous emphasis on, first of all, it's a lunar calendar, number two, on the calendar. And the points of ritual, the points of ceremony throughout the year, it's really looked at through the lens of the calendar. That's how they look at and plan when families will be together and when they won't be, and all of there's a form of vision quest. It is built in, it is embedded in the ancient cultures.
I mean, there's aspects of the Jewish sacred calendar that relate very well to the whole 2012 thing also, and that we kind of crossed a threshold at a certain point. I think they have I'm not going to remember it exactly. Maybe you do. The Kabbalistic, sort of like the 7 days or the 6 days of creation are broken up into maybe 500, 700 year cycles, and we crossed over into the kind of like the pre-Sabbath afternoon, which is the beginning of the celebration for the next thing that's coming.
Yeah,
interestingly,
it is interesting. Yeah. So, what do you see about the synchronicity, if you will, or the confluence of the Jewish, Christian, and Mayan calendars, or any other, let's say, confluence of different calendric systems?
Well, I mean,
or prophecy for that.
Yeah, I mean, I think that we're moving towards the coming to consciousness of the human species. and that's what all of these traditions have been preparing us for. And I hope that it happens in my lifetime. I'm not positive that it will. We may also miss the boat. I definitely like the metaphor of something like fetal development or the butterfly, the caterpillar into the butterfly, that we're at the end of the cocoon stage or the womb stage. I think one way you could look at the oil spill, especially if it turns out to be as drastic as we discussed earlier, you look at it as something like the breaking of the amniotic sac at the end of the pregnancy, that you've had this fetus that's been developing these delicate organs, doesn't really know what it does with them yet. Meanwhile, it's just been living off of this provided energy. We've been living off, human civilization has been living off this energy from under the earth, from under the mother's body that was just provided to us. Now we're running out of that energy. So now we have to go through this birthing process, and can we make use of these organs that have been developed, these organs of consciousness and sensitivity, these more advanced organs that we haven't really been able to bring into play, until this point. And I think we're going to have to, just as a baby has to get breathing and circulating, its blood and everything right away, we're going to have to smack right into it very soon.
So interesting. In college, I wrote essentially a book on the birth of consciousness as represented in the Prometheus myth. And, of course, he had a brother named Epimetheus. Prometheus in ancient Greek means forethought, as you know, and epi, afterthought. And all good books have maybe both. Why is it, and this has always puzzled me, and I'd love to hear what you have to say, with human beings' ability to calculate consequences and to be rational and to think with the heart, all of the above, and to feel reality, sense into reality. We have all of these functions as children, let alone as adolescents and adults. And granted, things get obscured and all that, but we have these innate biological skills. Why is it that we have blinded our eyes so thoroughly, Daniel, to the function of contemplating consequences? Which, of course, brings us to this intense dilemma. Why couldn't we have foreseen the emptiness of a purely material interpretation of life and have balanced it ourselves without such trauma, and as we say in Chinese, mishigas?
Well, I could come up with a lot of explanations for that,
Please.
But
a few.
No, but I want to say that I think that, our yearning for explanations sometimes is part of the problem. According to the Mayan Popol Vuh, the myth that we talk about and we animate at the beginning of the film, 2012 Time for Change.
Right, I love that.
The gods saw that the people of Korn, which was going to be us, were able to see everything, and they didn't want that. They wanted them to be limited in their perception, so they blew a mist over their eyes.
Covered their third eye.
Yeah, exactly. It could be, what's his name? Robert Lawler wrote a book of Voices of the First Day.
Yes.
He talks about maybe it was an electromagnetic change, that the Aboriginals in Australia, for instance, they never wore shoes or anything like that. They preferred to remain totally connected to the heartbeat of the planet. We started wearing clothing, shoes. We cut ourselves off from that basic connection.
That energy field.
And that then led to more and more effects that just began to feedback on itself. So we've now reached this kind of apex of alienation where we either go out or we go back.
Exactly. Well done. With such brevity. Wonderful. Well, listen, again briefly, because we only have a minute left, what do you feel is the heart and soul of the film and the book?
It's basically that people can awaken to the participatory relationship to reality and realize there is no authority, there's no salvation coming outside of us and what we do. And that's a major shift in the locus of consciousness.
Yes, indeed. Last question is, what was it like working with Sting on the film?
It was good. It was, it took us a while to pin him down, but now he's really excited about it, and he's going to do this event with us. And I've hung out with him a bunch, and I like the guy a lot.
Wonderful,
yeah.
Wonderful. Well, I really look forward to seeing it in its entirety on July 8th.
Right on.
And pleasure to have you on the show.
Thanks very much. I enjoyed it also.